Anywhere you go, anywhere you go, you belong. Anywhere you say, anywhere you say, anywhere.
Okay, what are you saying, people, and welcome back to another live stream. Now, before we get into this, make sure you follow me on my Telegram channel. Left a link to that in the live chat and also the description below. Posting a lot of different trading setups there throughout the week, and you don't want to be missing out on that, so make sure you go check that out. But like I said, on the live stream, I'm going to talk you through what's happening in the charts today and see if we've got any opportunities coming our way. So first up, I'm going to start with GBP USD. So for this pair, you can still see we're quite bullish right now, looking at the 4H, looking at the hourly. Again, price action is still pushing to the upside. We're kind of at weekly highs. If you take a look at the weekly time frame, we're pushing to the upside. Previously, where we got rejected not too long ago. So we're coming to strong resistance, but again, the trend of this market is still very much to the upside. So there's nothing really stopping this market from moving higher, and again we're seeing a lot of US dollar weakness coming to the market the past few weeks, so that's obviously helping GBP USD move to the up. So we've also got this trend line here in the market, which we slightly dipped below previously, but we're still pushing to the now you can see my chart, sorry about that. Yeah, so for GBP USD, price action still pushing to the upside for this one. We're sort of obeying that trend line there, pushing back to the weekly highs there. So I do expect to see more continuation to the upside, back to the resistance and potentially even higher. You can see you kind of had this not double top, but we've tested that resistance twice before and it has rejected it, so potentially could fall to the downside again. But if we do break through this, I expect to see more highs for GBP/USD and for price action to go a lot further, potentially 1.43 or maybe even 1.44. So overall still bullish, and if we do see some more US dollar weakness coming in, you can still see price action go a lot further. You can see Euro USD is obviously pushing to the upside a lot better than GBP USD, so it does look like Euro is slightly stronger than GBP, but nonetheless we're still pushing to the upside. And like I did say on my weekly analysis, if you haven't checked that out, make sure you go do that. We do have this key level here of resistance around 1.21700, and we have broke through that last week, and as long as we stay above that, I think price would probably get to these highs around 1.23 500. So potentially Euro USD is back on its way to its previous weekly highs, and potentially even 1.24 as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we were to go past that in the next coming weeks, and for price to really take on. We've got the monthly targets really, which is where I think price action is heading to for Euro USD. So we've got these highs up there on the monthly around 1.26, which is where I'm expecting price to go to, but again that's more long term. But again, it does help with direction in the lower time frames like the daily. So I do expect to see more continuation to the upside now for Euro USD. We've broken through that resistance there. We had that that double top sort of tested once, tested again, got rejected, but now we've cleared that. So now it does open up a pathway to those highs all the way up there. So I'm expecting more upside for Euro USD unless we were to get back underneath this area of resistance. It could possibly be a bit of a false breakout, but right now expecting more continuation to the upside for Euro USD, and potentially go and test that key resistance up there around 1.23400. Looking at AUD USD, so again still fairly bullish, not as bullish as Euro USD and AUD USD. To be honest, this pair is actually just moving sideways really if you look at the price action for the past few weeks now, kind of respecting this support around 0.77, and we haven't really moved anywhere away from it. We did look like we were going to push it to the upside a few weeks ago, however we came crashing back down, and price action from there has just been sideways. Got a key resistance here around 0.78, which was strong to break through. That's where we had the false breakout. As you can see, a big spike to the upside, and then we fell back underneath. So overall, AUD/USD still moving sideways. We do have lower highs here in the market, so it actually might get a move to the downside. Looking at AUSD, you can see here push to the upside, lower low, lower high there as well. So potentially could be a lower high here, and we could be seeing maybe a bit of retracement to the downside. So overall, AUSD is just moving sideways again. Probably not the best pair to trade. Looking at this from a Farley point of view, overall just kind of moving sideways. Again, could take advantage of that support since we're having so many bounces from that area. If we were to come back down, bounce from that support again, could be a nice place to look to buy. Potentially again here resistance as well, but I think the breakout could be a really nice trade back to these highs here and potentially even further as well. Sure, we'll take a look at USD CAD right now. So USD CAD still quite bearish here. You can see here on the 4-hourly time frame still falling to the downside pretty much from the monthly to the hourly. Pretty much is bearish, we're falling to the downside. Looking at this from an hourly point of view, you can still see we're falling to the downside quite correctively. We've got our previous lows all the way down here, and we're kind of just slowly pushing to the downside. Kind of got this hourly trend line, so it looks like we're kind of squeezing between these two areas of value here. The key support around 1.20200 and this trend line. So overall, I think we can see a bit more downside for USD CAD come squeezing between these two areas of support and resistance of the trend line, and either see a break to the upside, and at that point we might be getting not reversal but maybe a bit more of a counter trend move to the upside, maybe targeting that resistance up there. And if we break through that support, I feel like we're just going to get a continuation to the downside and just see that overall bearish trend continue for USD CAD, since again US dollar is still quite weak now, so looking to go long on USD CAD might be a bit of a struggle. Not seeing enough strength in the US dollar to take this higher, but of course if we do see a sudden change in that and price breaks through this trend line and get a hold, a nice retest, and then potentially could look to target those highs up there. But if price action keeps moving to the downside very correctively without much momentum, we could easily break through the support, turn resistance, and then look to sell off that and continue lower, because again, like I said, monthly, weekly, daily, 4-hourly, hourly is pretty much just bearish the whole way through. So there's nothing stopping USD CAD moving to the downside for another move. So two possible opportunities there for USD CAD, but right now I'm not seeing anything. Probably need a little bit more development there with that pair, and then potentially you can get a nice breakout, because to trade it to around 1.21300, which is that resistance which did send us down. But if we don't and we break through the support, then probably price will go a little bit further to the downside. So that's what I'm expecting there for USD CAD, and I hope that analysis did help. Looking at USD JPY, so for this pair again, very corrective, similar to USD CAD as well. You can see both these pairs are kind of just moving very choppy. We do have that support there for USD JPY, which I said if we do get a break through this week, I'm expecting to see prices come all the way down to this area of support down there, which is around 107,500. So it could be a really nice breakout to the downside if we do get that. However, again, we haven't had that yet. Price action hasn't really come back to test that support yet. It's still kind of just hovering above it, so we might see a little bit more downside for USD JPY, but overall we are still moving quite correctly here. Again, we've got this trend line here connecting those two major points, and again, not seeing much opportunities here for USD JPY really. Again, you can see the overall price action is still very corrective and difficult to buy that. Not so difficult to sell. If you just sell the trend line bounce, potentially could be a nice opportunity. But yeah, I'm not really seeing the best opportunity now with USD JPY. If we were to break, have a retest, that could be a nice opportunity, and could see a really nice drop back down to these lows, maybe even further. Or on the other side, if we were to break through the trend line, we could potentially see a nice push back to this resistance up there. We had that first, second, potentially could have a third test. If we break through the trend line, get a nice pullback and could ride that up to that resistance. So we've got two opportunities there for USD JPY, but again, right now, similar to USD CAD, I'm not seeing anything as of yet for that pair. So I want a little bit more development there. USD CHF, however, again, another USD pair, but this one is still very bearish. You can see that the difference in strength between the USD and the CHF is quite it's big enough to cause that drop in price there. You can see for other USD pairs not seeing such a big reaction. Maybe USD, we're getting a nice big reaction there, but USDHF is falling to the downside quite aggressively, breaking through that previous low, and is right now looking very, very bearish. So again, any long opportunities, not really seeing them now for USDCHF. I'm seeing more downside for this pair, so potentially could get maybe a bit of a pullback into this area, and if we show some rejections, could look to carry that further to the downside for USDCHF. So overall, I'm seeing more downside for this pair, unless this was just a big false breakout and we just spring to the upside back above that support and then retest it, and then we look to continue that further. But right now, it's just looking more bearish now for USDCHF. And if you do come back here, show some rejection, that could be nice to take it on the retest and just see more continuation to the downside as expected. Looking at this from a daily point of view, I feel like we could be on our way to come and test this support area here where we had this nice wick before giving that big push to the upside. So that's why I feel USDCHF is targeting. Ultimately, probably the lows down here, but the next target that we could see a nice bounce out is probably that support around 0.89. So that's what I'm expecting price to go. So if you do get that retest, pulling back onto that area, that could be a really nice area to target, resistance to support down there. So could be a nice opportunity there for USDCHF, but again, still need a little bit more development for that pair. Now I'm going to take a look at some GBP pairs. We really looked at GPUSD, we look at GPAUD. GPAUD for this pair, again, still overly bullish, but it's losing its steam right now. As you can see, quite moving very correctively there. I believe we've got this trend line here in the market, which has got 4 tests of this trend line. So we've got first, second, third, and now we're having our fourth, which is kind of a not the cleanest test. You can see we kind of broke below it, broke back above, now breaking back below as well. So not overly clear there for GPAD whether we want to stay above or break through that trend line. We do have this support here in the market, which is probably what's causing, which stopping the price breaking through the trend line cleanly. But I do think if price action does break through this area here with more aggressive price action, more impulsive candles, I think we can probably see a bit of a reverse for GPAD, because we have been on a big push to the upside recently. You can see if I go on the daily chart, we were kind of moving sideways when we were trading in this area here. Then we had a big breakout to the upside, taking out those highs. Not much retrace, so I think we could be in for some retrace. If not, I do have this daily level here, which is around 1.84. As you can see, resistance, 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 slight false breakout there. But you can see when we do test these areas, we do get strong reactions to the downside. So I think price action is slowly making its way up to that area, but we could be seeing some retracement first before we do get that. So if price action does stay bullish, that's why I'm expecting price to go 1.84, and from there that could be a really nice selling opportunity for GPAD for an even bigger move to the downside probably. But right now, as of yet, we're kind of just trading along this trend line, and if you kind of break through that support, come the retest, break through the trend line as well, then we could potentially look to take that down. But if we do hold this area, then price might slowly just push to the upside and go and hit that 1.84 area, which could be a really nice place to sell. We'll look at gold now. So gold, start on the 4H. So gold right now is still pushing. Gold right now is still pushing to the upside. What time frame are you looking to buy gold? Are you looking to buy gold in the 4H, hourly, 30-minute, 15-minute? Because right now gold is a little bit choppy, not the clearest pair, not gonna lie, to trade. Clear highs around that area there, we kind of tapped into it twice. We do have this trend line pushing through the market, which we have kind of just climbed back above. So we might see another push to the upside for gold back into that resistance, which is around 1890. Looking at this on the 15-minute time frame, so again, that's our trend line. We're back above that area, kind of held that support. So yeah, I think gold could be another push to the upside back to 1890 potentially, and then maybe if we do get a breakout, could see gold go a lot further, because overall I still think gold is still on its way to the upside. But again, you can see in the 4-hourly price action is probably not the best Not the clearest pair to trade in my opinion. I personally would not trade it, but if I was to favour a move, it probably would be to the upside, back into that resistance to 1890, either for a bigger move to the downside, a bit of a sell-off, or maybe a bigger breakout. But again, not seeing the clearest opportunity, but if we do hold that trend line, there is a good chance that price will probably have a nice bounce and see maybe a push back into that resistance and just continue this kind of slow moving upward trend that we've got here on the hourly time frame. And that break of the trend line could just be a big false breakout of the trend line. They'll come back in for the retest and continue back into that resistance. So that is what I'm seeing for gold. But again, not really looking to get involved with gold, probably waiting for a bit clearer opportunity, clearer price action to get involved. But yeah, I could see a possible push to the upside. Not really looking further than that resistance 1890. Of course, we could have a breakout, but if you're looking to trade it, probably look to exit around that resistance there. So hope that analysis did help. But yeah, it does look like we could be seeing a push to the upside for gold. Looking at GBJPY, so this pair again, kind of very sideways. You can see here we've had this big push to the upside a couple of weeks ago, and since then price action just kind of been moving sideways. So not the clearest pair. Do have a nice support area around here. Again, as you can see, numerous bounces. We do have this trend line as well connecting these lows here on the hourly time frame. As you can see, first test there, second, third, fourth, starting to pick up a little bit of momentum from last night, pushing off that trend line, pushing into this resistance here in the market, which I think if we can get a clean break of, we might see a push to the upside back to highs for pound JPY back to around 154.900, or potentially even further, because again we all know that GBJPY is still pretty much in the bullish trend. We've had a big push to the upside, creating new highs recently, so we could see a bit more retracement, but I don't think it's coming to the markets just yet. Overall, we're still pushing to the upside. We're still respecting that trend line. We didn't even have that push back down to that support, which I did think we'll get to, but as you can see, we did not get to. We did reject that resistance quite nicely last week. I was expecting the momentum to roll over back to that support there in the market. However, we failed to do that yesterday. We respected that trend line and price is still pushing up. So I feel like if we do get back above that resistance there and hold and we retest, could be a nice opportunity to take GBJPY higher, because that's where it looks like it wants to go. Again, targets will be these highs all the way up there, which is around 154.850, and then potentially 155 as well, because I'm still expecting price to get to that 155 area. But yeah, not really seeing a clear opportunity just yet. Need a little bit more development there for pound JPY. GPNZD, this one's still looking a little bit bearish. We did get to a very key level, which I was speaking about on my weekly forecast video. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you go do that. But again, really key resistance here in the market. As you can see, resistance there, second, was expecting it to tap the resistance again. We saw a bit of a reaction yesterday, and it looks like it might be following through for today as well. We had this nice rollover breaking through trend line here in the market. Looks like we had a bit of consolidation over the night, but I think we can break to the downside out of this consolidation and see some new lows potentially. So I think GPNZD could go a little bit further if it does clear these lows here, which looks like it could be on its way to. And if it does that, again, got targets this support here and then potentially that support all the way down there as well. So GPNZD still looking bearish from yesterday. As you can see, the momentum came in very nicely. Bit of consolidation there. I think that's just price getting ready for another leg to the downside. But of course, we do need to see those lows taken out to kind of confirm it. And then first target around 1.95400, and the second 1.94400. So GPNZD, I'm still favoring a push to the downside. If we do take out that resistance here, so take out the resistance of the consolidation, then we might snap back to the upside, maybe come back and retest that resistance. But yeah, not really looking for that opportunity just yet for GPNZD. No problem. yeah, so like I said, for gold, take a look at the 5 minute, because I didn't think go into the 5 minute. So yeah, if you do hold this trend line, I do think, yeah, gold can see a push to the upside. Probably looking to target from a 5 minute perspective that resistance there, but I think we can push to 90, 1890 up there, because it looks like we're coming back above that trend line, push to the upside, bit of consolidation. If we do clear that resistance just above us here, I think, yeah, we could see a nice continuation to the upside for gold, back into the recent high, and then probably push on back into 1890 up there. So no problem with that analysis. GPUSD, so GPUSD, again, so for this one, again, price action is a little bit choppy for GPUSD. We do have the trend line intact here. Well, it did break, but it's come back to retest it last night. So first, second, and then we had the false breakout, retest on the third test, then continuation back into that resistance. So yeah, we might see that wick getting filled for GPUSD, because I think we just tapped into that resistance on the 4H. So if I do move to the 4H there, you can see resistance here, resistance there. So potentially had a double top last week, but as you can see, it hasn't really played out there. We've come and test it again for a third time this morning, and yeah, I do think we'll probably come back and fill that wick, potentially maybe coming back and test that trend line as well. We do have previous resistance, will be turned support in this area, which could either drive price back up to that resistance again, or maybe if you do break through, it could see price go a lot further. But again, for GPUSD, not really looking to get involved yet unless we start to see some clearer price action. I personally am looking forward to see if we can get a clean break of the trend line, a lower high, and then look to carry that further to the downside. Or if we do the opposite, probably a break, come back down and take that further to the upside up there. So that's what we're probably looking for GPUSD. As of yet, we could get a filled wick there. The candle did close slightly bearish, so it is inclining that we could see the next candle push to the downside as well. Not close bearish, but at least push to the downside. So yeah, we could potentially see that coming, but again, I'm not seeing much opportunity right now for GPUSD, but potentially could happen. Next, we take a look at GBP/CHF. GBP/CHF looking quite bearish actually, so we're pushing to the downside. Again, we are seeing some CHF strength coming into the markets this morning. Again, I'm favouring GBP/CHF to roll over back to these lows all the way down here. So again, if you're looking for the pullbacks for GBP/CHF, could be really nice opportunities, because again, if I do zoom out, if I should just move to the daily, you can see recently we've had these big push to the upside for GBP/CHF. At a high, high, low, high, high, low, high, and then we come and violate structure there, pushing to the downside, giving us new lows. And I think we're just slowly turning bearish here for GBP/CHF. You can see they have this strong impulsive move, retrace, not as strong, but another move to the downside, retrace, double top, respecting that resistance, and now I think we're falling to the downside again for GBP/CHF. So I think daily point of view, we're falling back to 1.26, which is that support. And again, if we take that to the lower time frames, if we do see that pullback, could look to trade that to the downside. We do have 4-hourly support here, so probably not the best place to trade into. We did close below it, so we have technically broken through that support, but again, the kind of the distance it closed by wasn't probably enough for me to be confident that we've had a confirmed break. But of course, if we do have a break, if we do come back, we test that area, hold that as resistance, look for this target around here for GBP/CHF, because I still feel like we're falling to the downside, and just looking for those pullbacks now. And again, prior 4-hourly support will be term resistance, so if you do reject that quite nicely, looking for that next lower high formation, and we'll look to carry this all the way down to 1.26, and again, the range in that is around 90 pips. So again, could be a really nice trade to the downside that could be forming in the next couple of days or so, or maybe even today. GBCAD, this one not as clear as GBP/CHF. You can see price action is still very choppy, moving to the 4H. Again, not very clear at all. I'm favouring a move to the downside, like I said on my my forecast video, because we're having such a hard time breaking through this resistance here in the market. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4 attempts at trying to break through it. However, we failed to break through it on all 4 attempts, and now we've actually broken through this trend line. So I'm favouring GBCAD for a move to the downside, potentially even back to these lows all the way down here. Again, a little bit more of a bold call, but I feel like we could potentially see that move unless we were to climb back above that resistance. But you can see we've had many attempts. We've tried to close above it, or we had closed above it, but we haven't really taken off. Now we've come strongly, broken through that trend line. I feel like we're just having a bit of consolidation in preparation for a bigger move to the downside. So expecting to see a move to the downside for GBCAD. Again, we do have this support which is rejecting price, but I feel like we can break through it. Again, first targets will be these lows here for GBCAD. Of course, if you take out that support, the next probably will be aiming for all the way down there. So I'm seeing more downside for GBCAD. We're back at this resistance again, which looks like we're rejecting it. And I think if we do keep that up, GBCAD likely to push back down to this support, and then next target 1.70100, and then potentially all the way down at 1.68700. So a little bit more risk on the table for GBCAD if that does come out to play, but again, it does have great risk toward around 200 pips to the downside. So again, don't have to be involved for all of that, but it does have a lot of downside potential, GBCAD to the downside there. Looking at Euro GBP, this one I was actually favouring me to the downside last week, because it looks like we're fain to break through this key level here on the 4H, key support. Again, taking that across. So a really nice resistance, support, false breakout, support there as well. So we were rejecting that area of resistance. I was favouring price to respect that area and continue further to the downside. However, as you can see on Monday, we found some strength for Euro, bit of weakness for GBP, which helped us push to the upside. Now it looks like we've come back and retested this as support. So I feel like we're breaking back above, holding that. So I'm thinking Euro GBP could be on its way to the upside, potentially to go and fill this gap that we had here in the market. You can see we had this nice gap down, small, long wick to the upside, and then we had this big collapse to the downside. So I feel like this is where Euro GBP is likely to go and push to go and fill that gap, and maybe even see some more upside after that. But looking like we're holding that support, so I'm only looking at potential buys for Euro GBP unless we're to get back below. But at that point, probably be too corrective, too messy. I'll probably just stay away from the pair. But it does look like we're seeing more upside for Euro GBP. Euro USD, yeah, I'll take a look at that one. So yeah, for Euro USD, so again, my bias right now is to the upside for Euro USD. But if it was to have a false breakout, so if it was to break out this resistance and come straight back in, then potentially that could be a really nice opportunity to the downside. So simply, again, I'll just wait for price to push through to the downside. Probably take out those lows there. Probably take out these lows here on the hourly at that candle, which is where we had that impulsive move. Because if it was to push down, it could potentially just come back and test this demand here because of this big push to the upside and actually just climb higher. So I'll probably wait for price to push down. If I just zoom in a little bit more. Probably wait for price to push down, take out those lows there, come back, retest that as resistance. Then I'll look to short the pair, stop loss just above the resistance, and then look to target the lows all the way down there, which is around 1.21750. So wait for those lows to get taken out. But again, I want some strong candles, strong bearish candles coming straight back down here, taking out those lows, coming back up, retesting this, seeing some wick rejection, some price action, candlestick formations. Now I'll look to sell Euro USD back into this support and just continue the range of the market, which has been doing for the past week or so. Of course, if it doesn't do that, then my bias is still to the upside, expecting to see a retest of this area and then a continuation back to those highs around 1.23500. So I'm expecting more upside for USD. If it was to come back in this zone, looking for those buying opportunities, because it's expecting it to be a breakout, not a false breakout. So waiting for that retest, waiting for those buy confirmations, then we'll look to take buys from around this as support, targeting 1.23500, which is that daily previous high all the way up there, and just filling in the range of the market. So I'm expecting more to the upside for EURUSD, but again, like you said, if it was a false breakout, waiting for a strong move back down, take out those lows, come back, retest that, and look for the continuation back to those lows. But if it's not a false breakout and we just come and retest it and we look to resume off it, then I'll just look for buys back into that resistance all the way up there. So as long as we stay above that area, I'm expecting more upside for USD and only looking for buying opportunities, unless of course we break back underneath it and we have a false breakout. Next going to take a look at some AUD pairs. So see what's happening with AUD JPY. So AUD JPY, okay, so AUD JPY, we've had a big push to the downside recently. I think we've broken through a key trend line here in the market. Actually, no, that might have been NZD JPY. I think NZD JPY, we broke through a key trend line in the market. So yeah, NZD JPY, we broke through a key trend line. AUD JPY, we did not. But so for NZD JPY, we broke through this trend line first, second, third, fourth. And as you can see on the fifth, we broke through that trend line, having that pullback to the upside. So I think NZD JPY could potentially be on its way down, since you've had this big push to the upside in the higher time frames, monthly, weekly. We've obviously got this resistance here in the market that we've tried to break through numerous times now, failed to do so, and they've actually broken through the trend line. So it's either having one or two things. Price is wanting to start to reverse, or we've just had a slightly bigger retracement, because if you look at the structure of the market, we've had push, pullback, push, pullback, push, pullback, failed to create a higher high. So that means our last major structural low would be this area here in the market. So potentially what we've done is broken through the trend line, trick people, get on the wrong side of the market, tap back into this area, and then from here we could actually continue all the way and create some new highs, because this is the major low, not actually that which tests the trend line. So it's either we're having price come back to test this low, which is around 78, form a higher low here, and then continue to the upside and create a higher high, or because we're breaking through the trend line, we're going to come back, retest it, form another lower high, and then fall to the downside. So that's two kind of potential setups that could be happening for NZJPY. But to know which one's playing out, I'll probably just wait for a bit more build up here in the price action to see if we continue picking up steam to the upside, and then maybe come retest this area, fall back to the downside, create another higher low, then can look to take that on the long there. Or if we do come up, start to lose a bit of steam, reject this quite strongly, have a strong push to the downside, then on the higher low here, can look to take that further to the downside. So that's probably what I'll be waiting for NZJPY, because again, not too sure if we're creating that higher low to push on, or because we're breaking the trend line, we could be forming that lower high again to push to the downside. Because right now we're still looking bullish anyway. On the 4H, looking at the hourly, we're still pushing to the upside. We do have the trend line there that could reject it to the downside, but again, waiting for a bit more development there. For NZJPY. ADJPY on the other hand, which again, similar pair to NZJPY, and this one again looking slightly bullish. We did see that fall to the downside again, and similar to NZJPY, we push back to the recent low in the market. So again, you can see push, pullback, push, pullback, push, pullback, push, and it's pulled back to the recent low, and it's still respecting that area. So technically, from a technical point of view, you can still push and create some new highs for NZJPY all the way up there. And if that's the case, again, just looking to ride those pullbacks. But I feel like if NZJPY was to violate through that low, retest it, then we can see a downtrend there in the market. So two different ideas there, but probably favoring a push to the upside for ADJPY. We do have this trend line here in the market connected like that. Looks like we're breaking through that. So maybe if we do get a drop to the hourly, we do have this key level of resistance here in the market as well, just above it. So if we can break through that area, that would be great. Break through the trend line, break through that area, come back, retest it, and look to continue that to the upside, potentially back to that resistance up there on the daily. So ADJPY is showing some upside potential there, looking at that from a 4H hourly perspective, but still need to really take out that trend line from a 4 hourly point of view. We did get a nice close above it, but want to see a bit more conviction than that, because we could easily snap back below it. So want to see a bit more conviction there to the upside for ADJPY, break through that resistance there as well, because that of course could send us back down. And if you take out that, come back, hold that as support, that could be a great place to look to go long for ADJPY, targeting that daily resistance around 85,400. So it is showing some nice upside potential, but again, a little bit more development needed for NZD-JPY. Looking at AD-CAD, this pair again has been falling to the downside for quite some time now, and again we've had another push to the downside recently for this pair. Again, we had a really nice area of support, 1, 2, 3, broke to the downside, and now we're kind of retesting that as resistance. So it's either a false breakout or having a retest. If it's a false breakout, we want to see a nice big candle push into the upside. At that point, we could wait for price to come back, retest that as support, and look to continue that to the upside, because again, the false breakout, and then we get the bigger move in the market. Or this is resistance, and if we drop to the hourly, we should see more rejection there. So I want to see some stronger candles coming down, similar to what we had here to the downside, and then potentially could look to continue that to the downside. Because again, if I just go onto the daily chart, you can see ADCAD's been falling to the downside for quite some time now, and again, there's nothing saying it can't push further to the downside. So again, all depends what the price wants to do with this level. For me, if it was to break above strongly, then we can look to continue that with the false breakout. But if it was to push back down it again, then we'll probably just have a retest and the continuation to the downside. Looking at Euro JPY, again, Euro JPY is still looking very bullish. You can see we're having this continuous uptrend here, and price is just taking out level after level after level. You can see on the daily chart, we've just been continuing to the upside, and looks like price is wanting to push all the way to these highs, all the way up here with the way it's moving right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was to take out those highs as well. But looking at this from a daily point of view, again, still very bullish. So again, looking for the selling opportunities have got to be on the lower time frames, and you don't want to be in a selling opportunity on Euro JPY for too long at one time, because it quickly could turn bullish again. So you can see we had a slight bearish trend here in the market, nice impulsive push, creating a low, lower high, lower low, but as you can see, we've taken out that structure right now, taking out that trend line, and price action is still quite bullish. So I'm thinking for Euro JPY, because the coming to that resistance might see a little bit of a reaction. As you can see, we did see a big reaction to the downside, so we could see maybe a pullback back into that area of support there, then maybe see some more continuation to the upside, because again, at this point, Euro JPY looks like it's going to the moon. So if you do see a move to the downside, it's likely just to be retracement. You can look for selling opportunities at this resistance, but again, you need to be careful, wait for the confirmation, because again, in a bullish trend, you expect resistance to break, support to hold, resistance to break, support to hold. So we could easily break through, create a higher high, and then pull back, and then get that continuation. But again, if you do see some strong rejections around here, could look to take advantage of that and maybe ride that pullback to the downside. But I think a nice buying opportunity from around here to two highs could be nice for Euro JPY. Looking at Euro NZD for this pair, again, a little bit choppy. We did come to a very key level on the 4H again, which we talked about last week. Again, nice area of resistance. First, second test, taking that across. As you can see, we've got a head above it. Price was trying to break through it, but it looks like we're back underneath it now. So I'm expecting to see a bit of a reaction to the downside for Euro NZD. We did highlight this area here as a price where an area where price could pull back to before maybe looking to continue to the upside. So maybe pull back to this area, then continue to the upside, because even though we do have a bit of a range for Euro NZD, I'm still expecting price to continue to the upside and have that breakout to the upside. So again, clear resistance there, clear support, false breakout there, and I am expecting price to continue to the upside now and have that breakout and possible see a reversal or a new trend to the upside for this pair. So expecting to see maybe a bit deeper movement to the downside, a bit more of a pullback. Again, if this was to push a little bit further to the upside, come and really retest this area around here. Could be a nice place to look for a short and take that lower there for USD, because it looks like price action having a bit of a triple top there, rejecting that area once, second, third time, come back below the 4-hourly key level. So if it was to come back, retest that, then could look to take that further to the downside back to around 1.68600. So that could be a nice opportunity there for USD, but right now need a little bit more development there. But again, it could just fall to the downside from where it is. It doesn't have to pull back a little bit more, but if it does, it could be a nice area to take that lower. Euro AUD, again, very similar to USD as well, still looking quite bullish. This one's actually broken through its key level on the daily time frame. So again, you can see here nice resistance here in the market, 1 2 3 4, broke through it last week, I believe, and as you can see, we're continuing to the upside. So overall, price action is still very bullish for UAD. It would be nice if price to come back down one more time, really retest this area here, and they can look to take that further to the upside. It did look like price tried to retest it here, kind of missed it by a few pips, but again, could be classified as a retest because again, some people might have drawn the resistance slightly higher up, and again, they would have treated that as a retest. So potentially the retest is here, and then we've seen the continuation, but personally would like to see it fall to the downside one more time and then get that that continuation to the upside. Right now for UAD on the 1H, you can see we do have resistance going through us here. So 1 2 3, false breakout 4. So potentially could actually see that move to the downside if we do respect that area. So we keep that up, we could actually see that move to the downside because we've got the false breakout. We'll come back to retest and could see the continuation to the downside. Of course, if price was to now get back above this area, then we'll probably see a continuation to the upside and continue that bullish trend that I think is forming for Euro AUD. But of course, if we don't and we respect that resistance there for Euro AUD, I think we'll probably see a move to the downside back into that daily area of resistance, now turn support, or at least this support anyway, at least that support there, and then potentially maybe a move higher. But if you do reject that, I think Euro AUD could see a nice push to the downside. If you take a look at AUD, which is again partnered with Euro in that pair, you can see for this pair we're kind of just moving sideways, so kind of hard to work out whether AUD wants to move higher or not. This is AUD/USD, so again do have that bearish bias on the USD, so naturally expecting price to move higher. But from a technical point of view, you can see we are making lower lows here in the market. So there's a low there, there's the next higher low, so potentially this here could be a high low formation, a lower high formation, sorry, and then we could actually see price action fall to the downside again back into that same support. So that could be potentially what AUD/USD wants to do. So if that's the case and we do see a weak AUD, then that might mean Euro breaks through that resistance. But of course we have to wait and see what happens and, you know, work off our candle closures rather than candles being open. But right now AUD/USD still technically looks a little bit bullish, but is running out of steam coming into that previous resistance. It's possibly forming a lower high, so if that's the case, we could actually see another move to the downside for AUD/USD. But you need a bit more clarity there, slightly more development with the candlestick patterns, and we could see a nice push to the downside potentially for this pair. We do have this trend line if we connect those highs. So again, first, second, third test there, which we did poke ahead above, so could be maybe a slight false breakout and then we get the move down. But if we do break out that trend line and start respecting our support, then I wouldn't be surprised if AUD/USD pushes back up to 0.78, which is that resistance. We're up there, but you can see from a 4H point of view, price action is just moving sideways. So again, not the best pair to trade as of right now in my opinion. But if I was to pick a move, it probably would be to the downside unless we take out that trend line and start holding it as support. Actually, if you take a look at the DXY, you can see for this market, we've been pushing to the downside for quite some time. Again, this is the dollar index, so it gives us information how the US dollar is doing. As you can see, we've actually taken out that previous support. So price action is all taking out key level after key level after key level for the DXY, and we're just pushing our way to the downside. Again, I'm expecting price to get back down to these lows very soon for the DXY. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets there this week even. I wouldn't be surprised if it does that, but in the next few days, couple of weeks, I'm expecting price to be back at these lows here for the DXY, possibly even further. So with that in mind, that means we're going to see more US dollar weakness. So a lot of the US dollar pairs like AUSD, NZD-USD, GPUSD, EURUSD should be moving to the upside if we do see movement to the downside for the DXY. And looking at the 4H, you can see we've just taken out those levels. Hourly, you can see we're taking out those levels. So again, just simple support resistance. If price does respect that as resistance now, could actually see another rollover to the downside for the DXY. Of course, if it was a false breakout of that support, we'll probably see price snap right back up. And if that's the case, we'll probably expect the retest and the continuation to the upside. But right now, again, a bit too early to say. We'll kind of monitor price action around that area, see if we get rejection or if we're seeing strong bullish momentum, and then make the judgment off that. But if you do reject this area, we'll not be surprised if you do roll over and head back to those weekly lows all the way down there. But if you do snap back up and hold that as support, then yeah, we could see maybe another push to the upside, maybe coming back to test this trend line here in the market. But overall, DXY is still bearish, which again explains why EURUSD is pushing to the upside aggressively, taking out that resistance. And again, if you do come back down, so you can see the DXY kind of mirrors, inversely mirrors the EURUSD. So as EURUSD broke through that resistance, DXY broke through its support. So if you do get that retest here, and we're also seeing a retest on the DXY as well, that could be a really nice confluence, nice added confirmation to go along on the EURUSD and take this all the way back to the highs up there around 1.23500, which does have a good opportunity of doing that. So looking for buys for USD, but of course if it does snap back below, this will probably just be a false move, and then I'll look to sell the market instead of buy it and push back into that support all the way down there. If you take a look at some of the CAD pairs, CAD JPY, this pair is starting to push to the upside. Well, is pushing to the upside slowly. Again, we do have this trend line intact. First, second, third, fourth is still slowly pushing to the upside. We do have resistance, which is kind of where price is right now, which is probably why it's having a tough time breaking above. But overall, it's just slowly pushing to the upside. I think if you can get a strong break of that area, you might see price find a bit more momentum and start to take off back into some key levels. Again, we've got this resistance here in the market, which is where potentially we could go, and I actually think that's the high. So yeah, that is the high of the market. So yeah, potentially could push back to that resistance there. And I did say in my weekly forecast video, if we do push back to this resistance, very likely that price is probably going to take out this level and move to 91, which is up around here. So if you do push that resistance, likely to create some new highs, push to 91, and at 91 we might see a bigger push to the downside. But overall, CAD JPY still looks like it's bullish and currently pushing through that resistance. I think this hourly candle is about to close as well, so strong break of that resistance. I do think we're going to see continuation to the upside back into that level and maybe even further. CAD CHF as well, this one's actually looking slightly bearish. So even though CAD looks like it's turning bullish this hour, CAD CHF is looking bearish, and it just explains why CHF is so strong. I sent CAD CHF down. Again, you can see very strong support there, and CAD CHF kind of had us moving sideways for quite some time here in the 4H. So again, support all across here, and then just on the previous candle of the 4H, this strong bearish, we actually closed below quite strongly. So if that is the breakout, then potentially could see CAD CHF roll over to the downside and see a lot more A lot more downside for CAD CHF, which does not agree with CAD JPY, because CAD JPY looks like we could be getting a push to the upside actually. So again, a little bit of disagreement there, but it just shows you the difference in strength between CHF and JPY. So obviously we know JPY is slightly weak and CHF is very strong. So yeah, if we do respect that as resistance from a technical point of view, I'm expecting to see CAD CHF roll to the downside and see a lot more downside for this pair, potentially even back to these lows here, because again you can see if I jump to the hourly time frame, you can see we're making those lower lows in the market for quite some time, pushing to the downside, making lower high, squeezing between that support and that resistance, and as you can see the support gave way and now we're looking quite bearish. So if you do hold this as resistance, I'm favoring another push to the downside for CAD CHF. GPUSD, yeah, so GPUSD we did see, not completely, not the whole wick, but we did see a bearish candle there, and we did see slightly of that wick filled. But again, GPUSD still has that support intact. It didn't come right down and test that area. So I think GPUSD we could maybe see either another bearish candle come into the downside, come in and test that area here, or we start taking off to the upside from here and pushing to the upside, because this could just be retraced on the lower time frames, looking for another push higher. But just because GPUSD has actually had a test of this 4H zone, so resistance 1, 2, and now it's just tested it a couple of hours ago, I feel like that will give it the extra strength needed to come and test this support area again, and either have the break of it, or again just the resumption to the upside. So GPUSD I'm feeling could be on its way to have another test of that support, but again personally not actually going to trade it, but I just think that's what GPUSD could do. But like I did say, I'm looking for a strong break of this area, that trend line, that support, strong break, the lower high sort of pullback, either a retest of that level or retest that trend line, and then I'll look to get involved and see if I can take GPUSD further to the downside. But if it doesn't and it holds this area, then we might see a push, the breakout, the retest, and then I'll look to get involved on that trade there. But it looks like we could be seeing another test of that support, but again I'm waiting to see how the candles close and then make the judgment off that. But yeah, GPUSD might see a little bit more bearish to the downside. Yeah, so so I'm expecting to see that 1.41 area come back and retested, and then I think, because again long-term point of view, I still think GPUSD is still on its way up. So I think 1.42, which we just reached, is just one barrier. Next will be 1.43, and I think 1.44, maybe even 1.45 as well. So again, I'm expecting more upside for these USD pairs, GPUSD as well. So if we do see that move to the downside, it's likely just to be retraced. So if I do get involved in that bearish move, again won't be in that move for too long, expecting just retrace, and then could be seeing more upside for this pair. And again, similar for EURUSD as well. But yeah, so expecting a little bit more downside for GPUSD, but overall still bias is mainly to the upside for GPUSD. CHF JPY, again we're looking at this pair, you can see big push to the upside. So like I was telling you guys earlier, we saw big contrast between CAD CHF and CAD JPY, and as you can see, CHF is very, very bullish against the JPY, and CHF is just bullish overall anyway. So yeah, looking very, very bullish here for CHF. Again, breaking through this resistance here, which is on the hourly time frame, but for hourly, daily, it's the same resistance which we broke through. So we've had a very strong close above, and again price is still pushing to the upside. It's still very much in a bullish trend. So if I go on the daily chart, zoom out a little bit, you can still see we're pushing to the upside, creating higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So overall still very bullish here, and again we just had a very strong close above this area, so it's likely price is having a breakout, and probably going to see more continuation to the upside for CHF JPY. Of course, if it's a false breakout, we expect the next 4H candle to come crashing back down, or at least the one after that to come crashing back underneath this area. But right now, the momentum for CHF JPY to the upside is just far too strong. So I'm expecting to see maybe CHF slowly work its way to the upside, come back down, retest that area, and then look to continue to the upside after that for CHF JPY. So not really interested in this pair, but as you can see, a big push to the upside. And again, the market is still very, very bullish, and you can see why, because again, the higher time frames normally rule over the lower time frames, and the daily, weekly was still quite bullish. So we're just seeing continuation of those trends on the lower time frames, taking out that key level of resistance there. So still bullish, and I'm expecting to see more of that, but it would be nice to get a retest, but of course we don't have to of that level. Looking at EuroCAD, so EuroCAD, again, this pair, haven't really been trading this pair recently. Still quite choppy in my opinion. We do have our lows all the way down here. We're starting to push to the upside for this pair. So again, get that trend line involved. You can see first, second, third, almost the fourth, but we're slowly pushing to the upside, respecting that trend line. But again, you can see if I just go on daily, actually, you can see price overall still very much in the bearish trend. It's looking like it might be trying to find the bottom, or at least somewhere to retrace from. But yeah, not really looking to get involved in EuroCAD since it's having such a hard time trying to break through this resistance here. So again, as you can see, support, resistance, resistance, false break, now resistance again. Maybe if we were to come break through this area, create a higher high, come back, hold it as support, give us the higher low formation, could look to get involved in that move to the upside. But yeah, not really looking to get involved in EuroCAD right now. This area could actually possibly send it back down, and if you break through the trend line, could look to get involved in a slight pullback, maybe a retest of the trend line, and carry it back to the downside there for EuroCAD. But yeah, not looking to get involved just yet for this pair. I'm waiting for a little bit more development, but again, just staying open to both opportunities on the move to the downside and move to the upside. But again, like I said, not really a fan of EuroCAD. EuroCHF, again, not a fan of this pair either. Can't remember the last time that I actually traded it, but again, I do stay up to date with my analysis on this pair. So again, you can see it moving to the downside, creating lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Overall, we are in a bullish trend. You can see price is pushing to the upside, but again, EuroCHF is a very, very choppy pair, so we could do this price action for a long period of time before we do see the continuation to the upside of the trend. So we could have this big push, which we had not too long ago, and now we're just getting all of this corrective behavior, expecting to see another continuation. But this behavior here could carry on for so long before we actually see that happen. You can see here, we've had a big push. We kind of had this consolidation for a long period of time, and then we got the continuation. Same here, big push, consolidation for which felt for like forever, and then we got the continuation, which actually didn't even give us new highs really. So yeah, I don't often trade it, but again, I know some people do. Again, you can see clear support here, down here, which we tested 1, 2, 3, 4 times now. So it is showing some nice signs of a valid base there for EuroCHF. But we did have this big spike to the upside, so it looks like price was trying to continue higher but failed to do so. So it looks like we might be seeing another leg to the downside here for EuroCHF, since this here potentially could just be our lower high in the market. So again, just focusing on the structure. So got the high over there, lower high here, lower high there. So if this potentially is a lower high, naturally after a lower high you expect to see a lower low below that support. So with that in mind, could expect to see a break of that area, but I would like to see a little bit more retrace to the upside, maybe come back and retest the trend line or retest that resistance, then look to go short from that to the downside back into that support, and maybe even lower than that. So again, EuroCHF very, very choppy, but wanting to see maybe a push to the upside, retest that area. At that point we have a bit of a head and shoulders. Really, we look at that, there's left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and then continuation to the downside. So that could be a nice opportunity there for EUR/CHF, but right now we're in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a key support and a key resistance, so don't really want to get involved trading in that area. So we'll wait for a little bit more development, and if you push that area, that could be a nice place to look to continue that lower for EUR/CHF. AD/USD, again, another quite choppy pair. Like I did say for this one last week, I think price is trying to push lower to the downside, because we are forming those lower highs here in the market, as you can see. Nice area here, second, third, then we had some equal highs over here, so test it once, test it again, and then we fell to the downside there as well. So price is still respecting the structure of the market, push up, pull back, push up, pull back, and now we're pushed to this area. We do have this trend line, which is probably why we're stalling a little bit here, but I do think if we can take out that trend line, we're quite likely to see a nice continuation to the downside for AD/USD. You can see we actually are in a bearish trend here on the 4H, so I wouldn't be surprised if you were to see that continue after getting those equal highs and a violation of that trend line. So yeah, biases to the downside for this pair. We are coming back into a strong support, but if the trend does continue, then we should see that support break and more continuation to the downside for AD/USD. If we take a look at Bitcoin, so Bitcoin, again, you all know we did take a dive. We took a dive for Bitcoin. Again, a lot of cryptos did as well last week, and we came back to these lows here in the market. So again, from a structural point of view, very key level here in the market, because this was kind of the major prior low before this big push to the upside, and now we're back at that same area. So speaking from a structural point of view, we could potentially reject this area, and this could be the area that sends us back to highs, because again, if you all know, trend, push, pull back, and for a trend to be invalid, we need to take out the recent low in the market. So if we do push past this low, then yeah, we could actually see a bigger drive to the downside, but right now it is still intact, so might see more upside for Bitcoin if we do respect that area. I know we do have high low formations here, but this is the major one because this is what started that move. So this is the major high low. Then of course we got the lower high here, and we saw the big dive to the downside. So Bitcoin, looking at this from more of a short-term point of view, you can see we did get a violation of this trend line here in the market. So resistance, broke through the trend line recently, and I think we could be coming back for a retest of that area potentially. We do have this support here in the market, which could be where Bitcoin wants to go. So support, resistance, and as you can see, we actually did take out this level here as well, giving us a higher high there as well. So potentially could be coming back here to push further, or price wants to come back and test this support again, and then maybe see another push to the upside. Yeah, so yeah, Bitcoin, I mean, Bitcoin, again, doesn't really matter what kind of market is. It's just respecting normal technical analysis that you would do in Forex or any other market, really forming the head and shoulders. You can see if I go on the daily time frame, you can see we did violate this trend line here in the market. Then we pushed, create that high, higher high, and then the lower high form the shoulder, and then the move to the downside. So again, it's just technical tools that you use for Forex, just on crypto as well, and it makes the exact same sense. Yeah, Elon does have a lot of power with his Twitter account to move Bitcoin, and yeah, we did see a break of that trend line, and I think it's just retraced that we're seeing for Bitcoin, coming back into that support, and then might see a continuation of it. But if we do violate this support, then it's likely prices going to come back down to 30,000 maybe, and then see and then might see the continuation after that. So it's still bearish. Bitcoin is still bearish, but I think we could potentially, if we get back above 44,000, which is this major support here in the market. If you do get back above this area here, as you can see, this is what gave us a big drive all the way up to 60,000. If you get back above that, I think Bitcoin is clear to the upside, but right now we're still in a bearish market, so it's still too early to call a reversal to the upside for Bitcoin, because we are still bearish. And as long as that price action keeps staying bearish, it could smash through level after level after level, so I need to be aware of that. But right now it looks like it's retracing. Again, first target, if it does hold this area, expecting to see a resumption to the upside, or if it does push the downside, probably back to 30,000 if it does break through that support, which will be interesting to see. So we'll keep my eye on that pair. Does anyone in the live stream trade Bitcoin or invest in Bitcoin now that it's formed these new lows, or are you thinking that Bitcoin is going to crash now after this big push to the downside? So are you thinking that we're bottoming, buying the dip, or is Bitcoin still on its way down? Quite interesting to find out, actually. So I think gold, sooner or later, will be back at all-time highs all the way up here, and I think a lot of the commodities like silver will be having that big push as well. I think Bitcoin will drop to 19k. So around this area. That's a big call there. Potentially it could happen, of course, it could retrace even further and still go up. But yeah, that'll be very interesting to see Bitcoin break through that support and actually push down to those lows there as well. Yeah, and I'm expecting to see gold push up as well. I haven't noticed that, so that will be something I will take a look at. I haven't actually noticed that. But again, gold is pushing up quite a lot and Bitcoin is pushing down, so there's some correlation there sort of, but we'll take a deeper investigation in that, because I'll be interested to find out. But yeah, so again, looking at some pairs, GPUSD, EURUSD, on the watch list for potential opportunities. And potentially could be seeing maybe even USD CAD if we can get a bit more development for that pair as well, because again, we did have kind of price squeezing between this trend line and squeezing between this support as well. So if you were to break through that resistance, I think we can see a break through that trend line, sorry. If you do break through that trend line, I think we could see a nice resumption back into that resistance, or maybe a break of that support and then move lower. So got eyes on USD CAD for those opportunities there as well. Same for GPUSD. If we can get a break of that support, then we'll look to see if we can get a move back into that area there. So that kind of support just below that area. If we get a nice pullback, break through the trend line, and then EURUSD, looking for the resumption to the upside. If we come and retest this area, and looking for the continuation, or like I said, if you do get the false breakout, push down, retest, and then move lower. Gold. What time frame did you buy gold on? 5 minute, 50 minute? $19.50. Fair play. Really trying to ride gold to the upside. But yeah, I do think, because So I think this is the 1950 area you're talking about. So yeah, I do think gold can reach those highs up there. It is above a very key level, which I have had my eyes on, which is this level here, around 1860. As you can see, every time we've had a move to 1950, it's come from this 1860 level. As you can see here, if I highlight that area, we tested it here, this 1860 level, and gave us a move to that 1950. And again, secondly as well, you can see we tested it here as well and got a move to 1950 as well. So this 1860 level, if we can stay above it, I think can take gold much higher, back into 1950, and at that point we'll probably see a breakout and see price push the ultra highs. So I do think as long as gold stays above this level, so we could come back and retest it, but as long as price stays above 1860, I think we could see another continuation back to 1950. So yeah. Yeah. After range, the breakout is normally aggressive for most pairs in general. To be fair, after breakout, we normally see, well, after consolidation, we normally see aggressive breakouts. But yeah, so gold makes sense for 1950 as long as we hold above that level. And like I said, I'm looking for that short as well for GBUSD. If we do get a break of that trend line, get a retest or a lower high, I'll look to see if you can ride that lower to the downside for GBUSD. But of course, we need to see some strength in the US dollar for that to come around. And EURUSD is still looking very, very strong here. Again, looking for that retest of that resistance and support. But of course, we don't have to get it if price wants to remain bullish. It'd be nice to see a retrace back into this area, see if price can hold it, and then look for the continuation higher. But potentially price could even do that without much of a pullback anyway. So yeah, EURUSD, eyes on that for a pullback. I want it to get involved there. I look to take it higher and see if price wants to push back to its weekly highs, 1.23500, and again, I'm expecting to see from a monthly target price all the way at 1.25 for EURUSD. So again, just taking that information to the low time frames and taking advantage of that. So looking for a bit of retrace and see if we can get that continuation to the upside for EURUSD. No, I do not check strength meter before I enter trade, because normally what I found out with that strength meter, that it's quite obvious when you are taking a trade which pair is stronger anyway. Like, it can be a little bit helpful maybe if you're looking at other pairs. So if you're wanting to trade EURUSD, you could look at other pairs, like see what's happening with GBUSD, Euro JPY. So you need to look at the strength there to see the strength of Euro against multiple pairs rather than just the US dollar. But I feel like the strength meter just tells you what's the strength of the currency at that particular moment, and you could take a trade an hour, 2 hours could go later, and then the strength could be completely different, and the strength meter didn't really give you an indication that the price, that the strength of the currencies will change. So I feel like for me, there's not much use in it for me anyway. Yeah, so there's me to look into it for too long. What pairs are people looking to trade today then? And if you're already in some trades, guys, feel free to share. We'll take a look at them together, see how they're getting on. Again, no judgment here, we'll just see how the trade's getting on. Currently not in any position as of right now, looking to get involved in EURUSD or GBUSD, looking to see you can get some trades on those pairs. And if there's any pair or any market that you want me to take a look at, you want some analysis on, just let me know. Drop it down in the live chat and I will give you some analysis on those pairs, so just let me know. We'll take a look at NZD/USD because I haven't looked at that pair actually. Okay, so for NZD/USD, again, similar to AUD/USD, in terms of how it looks, again, kind of just moving sideways. Clear support here in the market on the 4H. We pushed to the upside, we're making higher highs at one point. Now it looks like the market's trying to make lower highs, so again, push, pull back, push, pull back, push. Big push to the downside, and then we pulled back and didn't quite make some higher highs. We pulled back down, and then it looks like potentially price might want to create a lower high there as well. So although I think NZD/USD wants to push higher right now, it's not looking too good for this pair. Again, you see in the daily, the price action is quite it's not good. It just looks very, very corrective. Again, we do have clear barriers of resistance and support either side of this area, so if we were to see potentially a break above, then we'll probably see a continuation to these highs on the daily, or say if you would break below, then probably see a bit of a reversal, but I'm favoring a move to the upside rather to the downside. So with that in mind, you might see price try and come back and test the resistance just above us, all the way up there, and then get a pullback and then to continue to the upside. So that potentially could happen, but again, looking at the structure of the market, we are forming lower highs, and I think we've got the trend line as well, so we might see a bit of a reaction to the downside first, maybe come back and retest it, which again could be a nice area to look for buys, and looking for another move to the upside there for NZD/USD. But right now I'm not seeing the clearest opportunity for trades for NZD/USD. Well, normally trade multiple time frames. I could use to enter my trades, I might use the hourly or 4H, but I use multiple time frames to get involved in the trade. So I could weekly, daily, hourly, maybe in the lower time frames as well, but I use multiple time frames. But to enter, exit, normally hourly or 4H, depending on what type of move I'm kind of go for. But yeah, hourly or 4H entry or exit, but for analysis it's multiple time frames. So yeah, it looks like we are seeing a rejection of this trend line here for NZD/USD, and if it does hold, we might see a push to the downside, but I wouldn't be surprised if we were to break through it. And if we do, might come back and revisit this resistance up there, and from there we might see a bit of a pullback and then the continuation. But right now NZD/USD is having a tough time trying to break through that resistance, so let's see what happens. But yeah, no clarity for me just yet for this pair, so not looking to get involved just yet. What time frames do you trade money on? Looks like you trade low time frames. Okay, yeah, so yeah, 15 minute, 30 minute. Yeah, those are good time frames to trade as well. Can give you good moves and time entries quite well, 15 and 30 minutes. So yeah, I might start looking to trade with the 15 and 30 as well. Try to time my entries a little bit better. But yeah, for now, still kind of 1H, 4H, but could start to look at the 30 minute, maybe time entries a little bit better, or the 15 as well. No, I haven't taken any trades today, Jaden. Currently looking at EURUSD and GPUSD. However, EURUSD, we've just seen a quite nice breakout come this morning, and looking to see if we can get a retest of this as resistance. Well, retest resistance as support, so we've kind of broken through that. So see if you can get involved in a retest and a continuation. Looking to target around the 1.23 area, all the way up there. But again, not too sure if I hold that trade for that long, but looking to see a continuation for EURUSD or GBPUSD as well. Looking to see if we can get a break of this trend line. So as you can see, first, second, false breakout yesterday, third test there. So looking to see if we can get a break to the downside, see a bit of retracement, then we'll look to see if we can target this support area here for GPUSD, maybe a little bit further depending how bearish it gets or how strong the US dollar can get. Or if GPUSD remains strong and we see a continuation to the upside, we'll wait for the break, the retest, and then can continue it higher. Probably looking to target 1.43 at that point, maybe 1.44, but yeah, so two opportunities there for GPUSD, a break to the upside, a retest, and a continuation. So that's what I'll be looking for. Or if we break to the downside, break to the downside with the trend line, pull back up, maybe to come back and retest this level here, then drop, look for a move to the downside for GPUSD. So focusing on those two pairs for today, tomorrow, well, whenever we can get set up. And of course, if you do see a false breakout for EURUSD, so if this move was false, then we come crashing back underneath, and we look to get involved in the retest of that as resistance and look to carry it back down to those lows. But I'm favouring more of a move to the upside than I am to the downside. So that is what I'll be looking for EURUSD and GPUSD. Nice. Well, where did you enter? Are you talking about EURUSD for your long trade that you exited today? Because if it was EURUSD, that looked like a nice trade to the upside there, breaking through that resistance. Potentially could have maybe held a little bit on as well. Since we did get a strong break of that level, maybe could have left a little bit on to trickle to the upside. But anyway, looks like a good trade despite that. So yeah, wait for that retest and see if we can get the continuation to the upside. Yeah, I think 1.41 for GPUSD could be, because at that point, if we do come back to 1.41, which is kind of this area of support here, I feel like we have a bit of consolidation there for GPUSD. So if you ignore the trend line moving through that area, as you can see, we do have clear support here in the market. Just move that out the way, clear support there in the market, and also clear resistance. So if you do move to the downside back down to around 1.41 area, we just got resistance, support, and price that kind of moves sideways. So I feel like if we were to pull back down to that area and we don't break out of it, I feel like, yeah, we'll probably just have a continuation to the upside and just see price resume off it, then continue there. And this price action here is just kind of like a big bull flag or consolidation or just retracement for the bigger move to the upside for GPUSD. So if that was to happen, then yeah, and we don't break through this support, of course, then we'll probably just see a continuation to the upside there for GPUSD. But as of yet, not too sure. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, and I can see what type of price action we're getting there, because GPUSD could turn really bearish out of nowhere and just break through that support and give us some new lows there. So we'll have to analyze it when we get there, but potentially, yeah, it could just be some more continuation. Okay, yeah, that makes sense because Euro USD, GPUSD, they do move quite similar. Um, they do move quite similar. So yeah, GPUSD is rejecting that resistance there on the 4H. Again, first, second, it looks like it's just about wicked into that area and now starting to reject it as well. So yeah, it looks like GPUSD is experiencing some bearish momentum because again, rejecting that area of resistance as well as that supply there as well. So yeah, I'm expecting to see a move to the downside for GPUSD. If we break through that trend line, break through that support, which looks like we could do, again, waiting for the candle close, we could still pull back up. But if we do, then might start getting a bit more ready for any sells for GPUSD back down to 1.41, which is that support back there. Looking at the DXY, so yeah, DXY is pushing up. Yeah, like I did say before, for the DXY, we've broken through this key level here on the 4H, and it just depends what the DXY wants to do, whether it wants to snap back up or continue to the downside. If it chooses to break back above, and then yeah, DXY looks nice for a move to the upside again. We've got this trend line here on the DXY. We've got 1, 2, could be seeing a third. But if we don't, and we actually just reject that area of support, now turn resistance, so we come back up, reject it, can't break above, then yeah, DXY could be seeing another move to the downside. And if it does move to the downside, then that will probably send GPUSD back up again, because again, inversely correlated with the GPUSD. So yeah, if DXY rejects that area, then we'll know GPUSD wants to go up. If it breaks back above, then GPUSD could see a nice move down. Similar for EURUSD again, moving to the downside now. If it wants to reject that, could see a nice move up, or if it breaks through, we'll probably see a nice move to the downside back into that same support. No, I have not noticed that for GPUSD. I mean, I've noticed that we do see some altercation between the beginning and the start of the week for most pairs, not just GPUSD, but for most pairs we do see that. We could see that Monday, Tuesday, even Wednesday bearish, or even Thursday. Then we see the correction on Thursday, Friday, or maybe Friday. But no, I haven't not noticed that for GPUSD alone. Yeah, like I said before, if GPUSD was to head back down to this area, then again we just have that kind of a triple bottom sort of thing here with 1, almost 2, then a third test. And if we do hold that, then yeah, looking for those buys back up again. If we break through, then we might see a deeper retracement, maybe back to one of these areas down there. But yeah, it could be a nice move to the upside, and we do have a good range as well, about 100 pips to the upside, so it's a nice range there for GPUSD. Euro JPY still looking very bullish. Like I did say earlier, for this one, we're coming to our previous highs of the market, so not even just hourly highs, 4-hourly, daily highs of the market. And I did say it'd be nice to see a bit of retracement, because I think Euro JPY is still on its way to the upside. Again, looking at the higher time frames, even the monthly, looks like price action is still pushing to the upside. So if we do see a move to the downside for Euro JPY, it's likely just to be retracement. And if you do get involved, probably don't want to be in that trade for too long, because I feel like it could reverse bullish again quite quickly. So again, we've got these highs here, we've wicked above it, we create some new highs, so we could see a move to the downside for Euro JPY, but again, I think it's just retracement. Again, anybody having stop losses up here would have been taken out with this wick here, so now maybe you can start to see some retracement to the downside. And of course, we've just seen a big explosive push to the upside for Euro JPY. We've just seen a big explosive push to the upside for Euro JPY, so we're likely to see some retracement come into the market now. and you can expect to see it come from around that area. So yeah, a move to the downside for me is probably just to be retraced for EUR/JPY. Like I said, if it was to come back here, because we've violated that trend line now quite nicely, if it was to come back to this area of demand here, could look to take that much higher, maybe around 134, which is all the way up there. But again, a little bit more of a daily target for EUR/JPY there. But yeah, still looking bullish, multiple time frames. Again, sales could be coming into the market now. Now we've seen that wick just above us there. Seen a bit of manipulation and could look to take us lower, but of course this is still very much a bullish market, so we could easily see this resistance fully break, see a strong close above, and see some more bullish momentum to the upside. If that happens, again, not to be surprised, it's still a bullish market, doesn't have to reject that resistance. GPND, yeah, GPND, again, it's not for the light heart. GPND, it does move quite aggressively. When it wants to move, it moves, and it does have wicks all over the shop as well, especially if you're trading on the lower time frames like the 5 minute, 15 minute. For GPND, we do see quite aggressive wicks to the upside or to the downside, but the good thing about GPND is that it does often wick to one side and then go in the other direction. So if you can identify a level on the smaller time frames like the 5, 15 or 30 minute, wait to see manipulation in one side, and then often GPND does move in the opposite side as well. So again, if I probably just go into price action right now for GPND, you can see a lot of resistance here in the market. This was our previous high. You can see we kind of just wicked above it slightly, and now we're seeing the follow through in the opposite direction. So for GPND, if I'm looking to trade it in the lower time frames, I'd wait for manipulation first, for a false breakout before I enter a trade, because again, it's just quite volatile. Again, from a 4-hourly point of view, it's not that bad, because again, your stop losses are much bigger. But again, GPND is a pair where if you're right, you're right, kind of thing, because you can see we do get really nice runs to the upside in the 4H. Again, that's 160 pips there. Again, another 160, 170 pips. So when you're right for GPND. So can be a good pair to trade, but there's probably definitely easier pairs to trade out there, like Euro USD, GBP USD, GBP even though that does have some big moves in it, but I would say it's easier to trade than GPND. So yeah, there are easier pairs to trade, and at the end of the day, you don't really need to trade GPND to make money. Of course, we're not here to trade the hardest pair. If you can trade Euro USD very well, then you're already winning. You don't need to trade GPND anyway. But yeah, it is a more challenging pair than the other Forex pairs. I personally feel like GPAD is a lot better than GPND anyway. Yeah, GPUSD is looking very, very bearish right now. Breaking through that support there. It's got this kind of last barrier of the trend line. Breaks through that, for me, we'll be looking for retracement to get involved in some more shorts back into this support. But yeah, we've had this big push to the upside, and I think we're just going to retrace that whole move. If I drop to the 15, pretty much the price action that we've had today, which is, I think, from around here to the upside around 55 pips, I think that's just getting retraced completely today. We've had that big push to the upside and it's come straight back down. So yeah, looking for that breakout, retest, and then I will look to carry that down to 141. Euro USD on the other hand, not as much momentum as GPUSD, but see if you can get that resumption off that and then look to take it higher as well. Yeah, see if that is possible. I mean, on the daily time frame, potentially could. Yes, they did close as a doji, so Again, it does make sense seeing a bit more indecision coming in today as well, with a wick to the upside, and we potentially could see that coming back through for tomorrow. GU short, so I'm looking to see first that you can get a break of that trend line and a push through. Then I will be looking to see about kind of this general area here in the market, then see if you can get some nice rejection from this area here. So kind of between 1.41670 and 1.41770 is that kind of between this support and that resistance, because as you can see yesterday we rejected this resistance here and we saw that conviction to the downside. So I'm looking to get involved from the kind of the similar area as yesterday where we got rejected, and seeing that move to the downside. And of course it would be nice to see a bit more retracement, because right now we're impulsing to the downside and I want to see retracement first before I look to get in for GPUSD for the short. So I want to see retracement and then I'll look to get in. Don't really want to get in as it's impulsively moving to the downside. So I want to see some retracement first, and I think from this area here could be a nice push to the downside for GPUSD. Yeah, so we'll be looking for that. Yeah, it might do that. It might do that. It could just fall to the downside completely, but I feel like we will get some retracement because we started around here at the start of the day. We moved to the upside. So if we do push back down through the trend line back into this area, we're back at the lows of the day. And I feel like we will get a bounce from the lows of the day. So if we do get a bounce, it should take us back down generally to that area, and if we do reject it, we'll see that continuation down. But of course, if GPUSD wants to melt, there's nothing stopping it melting from the downside. It could just easily just collapse. (21st of May). You're talking about this candle here, the big bearish candle here. Yeah, we could get something like that again potentially. Of course, there's nothing stopping it happen. Yeah, that's the only thing about retracement. That's why people trade breakouts, because again, it's the fear of not having the retracement and missing out on the move to the upside or to the downside. So that's why you get the breakout traders who just buy or sell on the breakout because they don't want to miss out the trade. Which again, there's nothing wrong with trading breakouts, but again, generally speaking, most breakouts are false, so you're up against it a little bit. But yeah, I'm waiting for that retracement. If it doesn't come, it doesn't come, but still gonna wait to see if we can get that retracement back down again, then the continuation. I mean, we've still got another 12 minutes before this candle closes, so I still want to see a nice strong close for GPUSD, because it can still pull all the way back up in the next 12 minutes. So I want to see how the candle closes, then could see a bit more conviction after that. Yeah, we'll be waiting for the next 1H candle after as well. I won't be entering now. I'm going to see how this candle closes first, as well, because it could pull back a little bit too far for my liking, or if it stays how it is, that looks like a good close. Yeah, same. Don't like trading breakouts as well either. It's good for the lower time frames if you want to quickly buy, scalp it, and then quickly exit the trade after. But not if you're trying to catch a swing of the market, because I feel like majority of the times, if you hold on for, if you trade a breakout and you hold it for too long, most of the time it does come back to where you entered the trade in the beginning. So you might as well just wait for a retest anyway. But if you're going to quickly scalp, as in the first like big push from a breakout, there is good opportunities with that, and just quickly enter and quickly exit. But not when you want to catch like a big move from a breakout, because it normally just comes back to your entry price anyway. Yeah, same. Always wait for the retracement. Always wait for the retracement. Don't like taking trades off the impulse, because again, that's where you get a bit emotional as well. Getting excited, seeing a nice big red candle, click sell. Always wait for the retracement there. Less emotional. But yeah, this GPUSD candle is looking quite bearish now. The W and M formation, you're talking about double tops and double bottoms. But yeah, patience, big key to trading really. Normally I find that just by waiting a little bit longer, things get a lot clearer. Especially when you're unsure about a certain position, just wait a little bit, just wait for your head to clear, see if you can look at it from a different perspective, and it normally just helps so much. Oh, thank you very much, much appreciated. When did you join the Telegram? Have you joined it recently, or have you been there for some time? Yeah, patience, very big aspect. It's not even your technical ability as a forex trader or your ability as a forex trader. Patience is just something anyone can have or anyone cannot have, and just by adding that to your game, it can be really big. And also it comes from the fear of not missing out as well, or fear of missing out as well, because if you don't have the fear of missing out, you probably will be more patient in general. Oh, nice. Well, thanks a lot, Money Run. Does mean a lot. Appreciate the kind words. But yeah, guys, I will be ending the live stream at 12 p.m, which is in 7 minutes. So if you want me to look at any different markets, any different charts, want some analysis on some pairs, just let me know. Let me know and I will do some analysis on those pairs. Yeah, it's just trying to speed up the process. You've got to love the process more than you love the goal. 100%. The process is the goal, really, to be fair. Yeah, sure, we'll take a look at ADCAD. Okay, so ADCAD, push back this in the 4H. Okay, so ADCAD, like you know, has been trending to the downside quite some time now. Recently, we've just taken out a very key level of support, which is this level here, support, support, support. We just take out this level, I believe last week. We took out that level last week. Now we're coming back up either for a retest or a resumption to the downside. So I said if you do see some conviction to the upside, so a strong impulsive candle, which so far we're not getting, then potentially we could be seeing a nice push to the upside for ADCAD and a bigger and maybe a counter trend move to the upside. However, it looks like we are rejecting this area. So I think if this is price testing and once testing it again, holding at that area, I think ADCAD is likely to see a move to the downside. We do also have this trend line as well, but I think we'll probably break through that anyway and see a move to the downside if we do reject that. And that's just simple price breaking through the support and retesting it again. So ADCAD, I'm feeling like a move to the downside unless we do see a big candle pushing back up, breaking through that support, breaking through that resistance, sorry, and then we can look for the retest and resume that to the upside. But right now it's looking bearish for me, so I'm expecting to see ADCAD push to the downside if it does hold that resistance. Now I only live stream Tuesdays and Wednesdays, so today and tomorrow. From 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. GMT. Okay, so EURUSD not seeing as much momentum to the downside as GBUSD, but again, still seeing if we can get that retest and resumption off. Again, it's not showing signs that we're having a false breakout. It looks like we actually are having a breakout, because a false breakout, we probably want to see some bigger candles to the downside by now. So I'm thinking EURUSD is likely to come back to this area, and if it does hold, of course, we wait for those confirmations. If it does hold, now I'm expecting to see EURUSD move to the upside. If it does break down, then yeah, it could be a nice sell opportunity there for EURUSD, but I'm favoring more of a move to the upside. However, again, GBUSD looking very, very bearish. You can see it's actually breaking through the trend line on that candle as well. It's about to close in the next 3 minutes or so, or maybe 2 and a bit. But yeah, waiting to see if we can get a retracement for GBUSD and look to write it down, but again, still looking very bearish, and it might not even retrace. But wait and see. Yeah, I'm from the UK, located in London. Where are you from? I'm interested to find out. Don't know where majority of my my viewers are actually from, to be fair. I know majority are from the UK, but people that watch my live streams. Okay, a little bit boring, to be fair. If we can say like Thailand or something. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so it looks like GBUSD is going to get a nice strong close there, and look to see how the next candle forms and see if we can get a bit of retracement and look to take that down from around about 1.41700. So retracement to that area and then look to take it down, but GPUSD is falling. Same with GBJPY, it looks like it's rejecting that resistance there. So if you can get a break above this area, you can look to take it higher, but it does not look like we're getting that break above, and it looks like price actually going to close bearish there. No problem, Money Run, happy to help, and thank you for joining the live stream as well, really do appreciate that. You too. But yeah, we'll see that how that gets on GPUSD, looking very bearish. No wick to the bottom as well. So yeah, that might just continue to the downside, but we'll see. Okay, anyway, it has come to the end of the live stream, but like always, going to do a quick run down some of the pairs that we looked at today, see what we can expect for later today and maybe even tomorrow as well. And then yeah, we'll be back live doing another live stream tomorrow, same time, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. GMT. So make sure you're there for that. But I'm going to do a quick rundown before I end the live stream. So GPUSD, like we've been saying towards the end of the live stream, expecting more downside for this pair. Wait and see, you can get a bit more of a retest, retrace and retest this support here, which will be term resistance. Then continue it back down to these lows here. Could potentially fall further, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to that. But I'm expecting to see GPUSD fall to the downside now. We rejected that key level there on the 4H, and looks like we're going to see another dump to the downside unless we get back above and we see a big bullish candle kind of mirroring that that bearish candle, but biases to the downside now for GPUSD. EURUSD, again, looking for those buying opportunities. However, we haven't quite come to that area of interest just yet. Again, former resistance will be turned support now, so we'll be looking to see if we can get a nice resumption to the upside from that level. However, if we do get a false break and price pushes back down underneath that support, will be turned resistance again, and we'll look to see if we can carry that back down to the downside. But it's not at that area yet, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. It might even take till tomorrow or later tonight for price to actually reach that area, so we'll be looking out for that. USD CAD, like I said earlier, squeezing between support and that trend line, and if you can get a breakout to the upside for USD CAD, then we're likely to come back to test the resistance. Or if you do get a break of that support, then we're likely to see a break further to the downside and just see USD CAD trend to the downside a little bit further. But right now, again, no opportunity I'm seeing there for USD CAD, so I want a bit more clarity first, so you can get a break of one of those two technical aspects, and then look to get involved on that retest. As the USD, again, looks like it's rejecting this trend line, so first, second, third test, and if it does reject, form a lower high, then it's probably price going to fall back to these lows here. But I wouldn't be surprised if you were to break through and continue to the upside. But it looks like we are rejecting that area, so I am expecting to see some type of decline there for USD. We do kind of have this trend line here, which is kind of keeping it pushing to the upside slightly. But if we do violate that trend line, then yeah, I do see a nice push to the downside. USDJPY looking a bit strong. Again, strong close down hourly. Again, you can see we've got this trend line connecting those two major points. Like I said, if we were to break through this trend line there, then we'll probably see a continuation back to these highs, and we can get involved in the retest of that resistance. But if we do fall to the downside and break through that support, then we'll probably see a nice dump back down to those lows. But again, that doesn't look quite likely as of yet. So seeing if we can get a nice break to the upside, a retest of that area, then we'll look to see if we can get involved in some longs there for USDJPY. But as of yet, not seeing much for USDJPY. And AUDUSD, this pair again, sometimes the USD rejecting 1, 2, 3, and if you do keep that up, could potentially move a little bit further to the downside there. Do have this trend line keeping us in a bit of a bullish trend there on the lower time frame, so that's probably that 15-minute. If we do break through that, we'll probably see a move to the downside for AUDUSD back into this same support. So that is the end of the live stream, people. Thanks again for joining me. That does mean a lot. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. And also drop a like in the video if you're feeling generous. But thanks again for viewing, guys. Does mean a lot.